I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, Alex Sokolik is a seasoned naturalist with 6 decades of outdoor experience across 4 continents. His work, One with Nature, represents an in-depth exploration of the human-nature relationship, focusing on bow hunting, photography, and animal behavior. But its implications go far beyond these aspects as well. We're delighted to have Alex join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Alex, thanks so much for joining us here today. Let's start out with the big picture. Tell us what your book is all about.
Yes, hello, Logan. It's an honor to meet you. I've been bow hunting for a long time and have been fortunate to live in New Zealand, been to Africa, South America, Alaska, Canada, and the US. And the book, big emphasis is on being a participant with nature. The big emphasis is with nature, not against it. And a lot of people living in urban areas really don't know what they're up against. They're not prepared. Ever since COVID, people are going outside, hikers, climbers, snowmobilers, and they're not prepared for nature. They won't check the weather, and they're out there for a few hours to be an observer. Being with nature is the message, getting close to nature, being nature. And there's a lot to be learned from this with the animals, because ever since eons of time, man has depended upon the animals to give him subsistence and food. And it's more of a spiritual and ritual thing, because the people that have been hunting, particularly in Europe and other areas, they have different rituals, what they call the last bite, or after they harvest the animals, they put a twig or a leaf in their mouth to honor them, because the meat's going to give them sustenance. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this is about the spirituality of hunting. It's not about the physical benefits as much as the whole thing of being with nature.
Absolutely. Now, the implications go beyond bow hunting and photography. It actually addresses other pressing issues such as COVID. Tell us how your book addresses these implications.
Well, one of the things is the book will make you think that when you go outside, whether you're hunting, you need to practice and be prepared and do your planning before you get there. A lot of people go out, even in Colorado, at 10 to 14,000 feet in the summer, and they won't check the weather. You can get a snowstorm at 12, 14,000 feet in Colorado anytime. We had an abnormal winter last year, which we needed the snow and moisture, but we had a lot of snow. It was cold from October to June. And a lot of people, just when they go outside, they live in urban areas, but they don't know what they're up against when they go. They're not prepared. And that's the big part of the book, is being prepared, and to treat the animals as sacred games, because they are. And the people that have hunted for millions of years know this, and a lot of people in indigenous areas and traditional areas know this. And the Europeans have practiced this for years when they hunt. Fortunately, in America, it's not only the rich or the nobles or the kings that get to hunt. Anyone can hunt. But because of the population increases, it's oftentimes hard to get a tag in certain states. It may take you 15 to 20 years just to get a tag to hunt elk or desert mule deer or sheep or other areas. So there's a big demand for outdoor recreation, but a lot of people aren't approaching it right, and they're not doing their planning, practice, and research and preparation before they go outside.
One of the chapters that I found fascinating in your book is about dogs, how they're able to understand humans, communicate among themselves. Elaborate for viewers about this.
Yeah, chapter 9 is on dogs, and I've been fortunate to have some great dogs. You can get a great dog from a pound, and there's nothing wrong with getting an adoption dog. But for me, I want to know the lineage of the dog. I want to know that he's a field dog, if he's a hunter. And certain labs and shepherds and golden retrievers, I mean, you may have to spend $400 to $4,500 to get one of these dogs because of their lineage. And then you have to train them. But the thing about the dogs is their work ethic, their passion, their perseverance, and you can learn from this, their character, their desire to hunt. And there's so much you can learn from these dogs. And one of the presidents said that, a person has to be born to hunt. Alexander said that, but I disagree. A dog may be born to hunt because it only lives 8 years or 12 years, but a person can live 70 to 90 years old. And over time, if you go about it right, if you're learning the right principles and background and fundamentals, a person can learn over time to be a good hunter or a good bow hunter because he's living decades. So it's all a matter of preparation and planning and getting things right. And a lot of people don't get that. They're in an urban area, they're going to go outside and look at it, but they're merely looking at nature as an observer. They're not a participant. They're not being, as man was meant to be, a predator, and to be like a good dog, to really enjoy it and know what they're doing.
Yeah. If you have a dog, you know exactly what we're talking about. They are truly a joy watching them interact with nature. Let's talk about another issue you address, the stewardship and sustainability of public and private lands.
That's really important, and it's great to have as much national parks and public lands. And Teddy Roosevelt and Gifford Pinchard really did a lot of things. Teddy Roosevelt was a hunter. He actually gave up the presidency to go over to Africa for 9 months with Kermit to hunt because he wanted to do it before things changed. And then he came back and ran as a third-party candidate and lost. But what he did with national parks, if you go up to Meeker, Colorado, the Meeker Hotel and the White River Museum, there's basically photos and things of what Teddy Roosevelt did. He saw how important the national lands and parks were. He saw how great nature was, and he really had an affinity for the sacred game. And he brought that to us. And he was a hunter. And I think that's important, that he understood things and he made sure that things were going to be preserved. And oftentimes private lands are managed better than public lands. Mm-hmm. And that's because you don't have the bureaucracy and government doing things. You have private, wanting to do things that are right to make a profit. It's not wrong to do that, but to manage it for sustainability in the future. Because, agriculture can be viewed kind of as mining. Soil gets used after a while. And if it wasn't for fertilizer and water, we wouldn't be able to have 8 billion people. So the management, sustainability, and stewardship is very important. There's a lot about that in my book. And nutrition's also part of my book. I firmly believe, because my diet consists of wild game, elk, deer, and wild trout, and that my eyesight's gotten to the point where I don't even wear my contacts and glasses anymore. It was minus 2.75, now it's minus 1.3, and it's almost basically 20/20. And my eyesight's gotten better because I don't eat fast food. I don't eat stuff like most people do. I eat wild game, and I think that's a big plus. So there's a lot about nutrition and food, sustainability of habitats, and this all kind of goes together with being with nature, not being an observer, but being with nature and part of it.
If you look at the nutritional breakdown of wild game versus the average industrial farm-raised animal, you'll find lower fat content, lower cholesterol, higher protein. It's a very, very healthy way to eat. One of the things you talk about in your book is a quote from Genesis 27:3. Talk about its relevance and your interpretation to human nature. Tell the audience about that.
To paraphrase it, it says, "Get your bow and quiver, go into the countryside and get me some meat." It's fine to eat vegetables, but man is allowed to eat meat. If you look at our teeth, you can see how we evolved. And this is a natural thing. But to tell me that I shouldn't hunt or eat meat, it's all management. If you manage things right, you'll have it in the future, whether it's the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Safari Club, Ducks Unlimited. These people are spending a lot of money. They're not talking about it. These people are spending a lot of money and effort to make sure that the habitats are there. And that's the whole key thing. You got to protect the habitats. And Roosevelt knew this, and a lot of game management areas know this. But protecting the management of the waters and habitats is important. And in the book, it talks about Gaia, Zen archery, a lot of other things. But it's important to note that the management is the key, and you got to spend the time to get it right. Otherwise, it's not going to be there. And this all goes back to carrying capacity. If you have 1,000 acres, you can only get so many horses or cattle on it. If you have the planet Earth, and let's face it, there is nowhere like the planet Earth. Where else does life exist? The oceans are incredible, but yet we've overfished the ocean since the 70s. There's things in there about the orcas off Spain and Europe are damaging rudders on commercial fishing boats because that's their competition. They know what they're doing. These are very bright animals, but it may be that 8 billion people is too much on the earth to be sustainable. A good case in point is that the total tonnage of fish harvested in the oceans has gone down because we got people in certain areas of the country that are over harvesting. And that's not a good thing. And, whether it's the reefs off Honduras or Australia or other areas, it's just incredible, the ocean life out there and the life everywhere.
Absolutely. The name of the book is One with Nature. It is written by Alex Sokolik. It is an in-depth exploration of human-nature relationships, focusing on bow hunting, and includes spectacular photography, as well as a wonderful examination of animal behavior as well. He is a staunch advocate for improving environmental laws and debunking misinformation. This is quite a read, an important book, and it is highly recommended.
There are 135 photos in the book and appendix. There's a lot of interesting things. You can learn a lot about it, and the photos alone make the book a must have.
The pictures in this book, as you say, Alex, are just spectacular, and this book will change the way people look at nature. It is a book for everyone who loves the planet, which should be everyone. Alex, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
My pleasure. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time. This time, until next time, on Spotlight.